effeminate student when he was in prep school. So this story is making its rounds on the internet. Everyone is talking about it. And I have to say, the 11-page article was really interesting because it kind of gives you an idea of where Romney comes from, right? The environment that he was educated in and the type of behavior that was deemed acceptable, right? Now, 5 students who actually went to school with him shared their story with the Washington Post, right? And all of them shared their stories in separate rooms, and it all kind of came together. So you can tell that they're not just lying and they're not bashing him. And I should also note that all of the people who contributed to this story also have different political backgrounds. So they're not all Democrats. A few of them are Republicans, and that's an important thing to keep in mind because this isn't politically motivated. But what's really interesting is there was one case where there was a student that Mitt Romney believed was gay. Okay, he hadn't come out, but Romney believed he was gay, and one day he came to school with, I guess, a haircut that was too feminine for Mitt Romney. It was like, draped over one of his eyes, and he also dyed his hair blonde. Well, Romney had a problem with that, so he got a few of his friends to hold the student down and cut his hair, which is unbelievable to me, that was acceptable. There was absolutely no consequence for what he did. And a few of the students who participated in that action, said that they regretted it. They spoke to the student. His name was John Lauber. And they apologized to him. But, something like that is so traumatic for someone who's in high school or prep school. Mm-hmm. So in another case, there was a professor who was, he wasn't blind, but he had a hard time seeing. And Romney pretended as if he was opening or holding the door for the professor, but he didn't. And the professor, walked into the door, which is so disrespectful.
This one
so
is even,
cruel.
Yeah, it's more unbelievable to me even than the first story.
Because that's your educator. Look, this article, which went into great detail about the environment of this school, talks about how it was hardcore when it came to academics. It was a very strict school. Some of the educators would come into the dorm rooms and, wear white gloves and check for dust, right? It seems like such a strict environment. And then you have this little, I'm going to try not to use mean language, but you have someone like Mitt Romney doing something so cruel to an educator there, and there's absolutely no consequence for it.
Yeah, I mean, it partially makes me question. In a way, I think it's difficult because we're looking at these kind of isolated events in the context of 2012, and this happened in 1965. And a part of me wonders what was the kind of climate then, how behavior was much more accepted at the time.
At the time, his father was the head of American Motors, and I get the sense that everyone on that campus, including the educators, knew that he was a privileged child, right? And as a result, they looked the other way as he was bullying, students, as he was doing cruel things to educators. It's kind of what you see today, where if you have a powerful background, if you have money, people are always willing to look the other way because you are seen as the upper class that can get away with murder.
And at some point, you may be able to help me out. You know what I mean? And I don't want to cross you. Half of my family is still in the church.
Wow.
And so I grew up in that environment. And I know this kind of very smart, very tactful way to raise a child to be somewhat bigoted, to be somewhat intolerant, but also have a heart full of love for your fellow man. And you grow up never thinking that these viewpoints could be wrong. This is just well accepted, and you're in this bubble that is the Mormon community. Mormon kids hang out with Mormon kids, and also you see his wealthy kids were hanging out with wealthy kids. And not only, I think, does this inform his policy decisions when it comes to economic policy and foreign policy, I think it really informs a lot of his decisions when it comes to these, more social or third rail issues.
Right, okay, so JR has videos of Romney responding to this Washington Post article. Let's watch.
I played a lot of pranks in high school, and they describe some that, you just say to yourself that back in high school, I did some dumb things, and if anybody was hurt by that or offended by, obviously I apologize.
They talk about a prank that could have gone on in high school with a guy named John Lauber, who they say that you and a couple